Okay, so we're going to jump into our reading program. And I want to go over a few things before we get into the reading program itself regarding what a child needs to show you before you know that they're ready to move into this section of our language materials. Okay? So there's obviously a lot of skills that a child needs to be able to become a proficient reader. And so I want to go over how all of the materials that precede this section help them acquire those skills that they need. The first one is going to be decoding. Does anybody know what decoding is?
Is it like sounding out the letter?
Basically, yes. Thank you. So it's helping them become aware of phonemes and recognizing within a word the different sounds that they hear in the word. So there's a few different things that go along with that. Recognizing phonemes just means that they recognize that there are sounds that make up a word, but then they need to identify the letter associated with that sound. And so what we're really doing preceding this with becoming sound conscious, focusing on beginning letter sounds, identifying lots of words that start with the same sound. And then sound games, we're focusing on words that have the same middle sounds or the same ending sounds. So just recognizing all of those different sounds throughout. And then introducing the sandpaper letters where we associate a written form to go with each of those sounds. And then moving into the movable alphabet where they actually identify all of the different words or letters that are in a particular word. And so what we're focusing on in the beginning when we talk about phonemes are literally letter sounds. As they go through our language program, a phoneme can become more than one sound. So for example, when we have blends and digraphs and things like that, they start to recognize that a sound can be made up of more than one letter. And so we'll learn the different types of phonemes that a child will be introduced to throughout the language material. But with our pink material, we're just doing straightforward phonemes. They're called CVC words, where they're consonant, vowel, consonants. And so that really helps them identify those basic letter sounds, really focusing on the vowel sounds in the middle of each of those words. The other thing that we want to be aware of as we're going through reading is fluency, and there's several ways that we work on fluency with them. One of which is just through repetition of identifying those different words that we're introducing to them. And when they repeat those words, it becomes more automatic for them. So they're no longer having to sound them out eventually. They start to recognize them automatically. And that, through that automatic recognition, that's where fluency occurs. Fluency also occurs when they start understanding what they're reading. So introducing vocabulary to them, recognizing what the words are that are forming up those words are really important as well. And that goes along with sentence construction and cohesion. So cohesion meaning that they understand the meaning of the sentence. So first we need to focus on just words, and then we focus on sentence construction. And we'll show you the different materials that we have that focus on being able to build a sentence once they're able to form those simple words. Through there, we also work on things like sight words. So those words that are more difficult to sound out, but they're also the words that are used very frequently. And so those need to be automatic for kids, because if they come to a sight word, every other word in a sentence, it's going to take them a long time to get through a sentence, and that fluency won't be there. If there's not fluency, then it's harder to understand what it is that you're reading. If you're focused on sounding out your words, then understanding the context behind what it is that you're reading becomes more difficult. So I just want to kind of point out that there's lots of different reasons that our language program is developed the way that it is to make sure that kids are successful in their reading, and we're trying to remove as many barriers as possible. In Montessori, you guys know that we teach writing before reading, so those decoding skills should be very strong in your students before you ever get to the point where they're working on material.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Any questions about any of that? Okay. So obviously practice is super important. We do have a specific language schedule. This is all of the pink material here. The pink material is the most extensive of our sets of language materials because it's the foundation. Working on these CVCs, we're working on a lot of sight words. We're working on introducing how to read. And so we want to spend a lot of time in the pink material and not push our kids through it, because we want to make sure that they understand this foundational skill before we try to move on to any of those other types of phoneme themes in the future. Okay. It's up here. Okay, so let me introduce to you the basics of our reading program. So I will get you guys a language schedule. This has there are 6 steps in the language in the reading program.
You know that, I think.
Yeah.
And you probably do. And I'll just review with you guys as we go through. Next week we'll be covering more of the upper level language materials. I want to make sure we spend a lot of time in the pink material and demonstrations and how to introduce each stage of it. So that way, once we get into the blue material, it starts becoming very repetitive. And it's also just understanding how to introduce each of the different sounds that we'll be focusing on. Who has seen this schedule before? I know you have. You have it right there. Perfect. So we've got 2 newbies here. So the language schedule just really outlines the different steps, the stages that we go through, and then it also identifies the different types of materials included in the language program. So what I'd like to do is go through what introducing this first step looks like within each of the different materials in the language program. Once I get through there, then I'm going to take a step back and actually introduce each of those particular materials to you, so you know the proper introduction to the students. Okay. All right, so step 1, you start at the top here, and you basically, just like you're reading, so you start at the top left, you work your way right, and then move down to the next line, left to right, left to right. Got it? So the first one is going to be short A, is the sound that we're focusing on. And we're going to start with the movable alphabet. You all know what the movable alphabet is, correct? Okay, perfect. And you might have already done this particular lesson with the student, and that's kind of how you know that they're ready for the pink material. If they've been really proficient at being able to spell a lot of different CVC short A words with the movable alphabet, then you're probably ready to move forward. But even if you've done that, I'd still give a brief lesson, or just ask the child to spell some words for you, give them some objects and see how proficient they are with it. That's kind of your test to see if they're ready to move forward with pink material. Okay. Insta Learning Board is a not required part of the language schedule. It's if you have the material, it's a good practice for the child to be able to do. Again, another thing that they could be working on before they get into the pink material. So I want to show you some of the materials specifically. These strips are the ones that you're going to want to introduce corresponding with pink material. And they're a word, and you just want to make sure that that word is focusing on a CVC that has a short A sound in it. So we have hat, bat, and bag. I think it's bag. I'm pretty sure.
It was hard. I
It
thought it was
could
like
be-
glove at first.
It actually could be a sack, looking at how
A
many
sack?
letters are on there. Let me see, is it the same as the
Because
others?
it
No,
could
I
be
think it's a
part of the
bag.
blue, isn't it?
Bag.
If it's 3, it's.
I think it's
pink.
bag.
Yeah.
It looks like 3. I couldn't tell. So anyway, double check them before you give them to the child to make sure that they are what you think they are. And again, it's one of those things like the picture might not be super clear. So with all of our pink material, it's really important to review that vocabulary with them before you expect them to read or spell something. Because if they don't know what it is, then it's going to be more difficult for them to be able to correspond it to something else. So that's how you would incorporate the Insta Learning Board into the pink material. And then we have object word cards. And so you would use the same objects that you'd use with the movable alphabet. So I have a hat, I have a ram.
We don't have
Little
these.
hand.
No.
So you might actually have some of these objects in with your object boxes. And so it would be just going on a scavenger hunt to find objects that correspond with the words. And then we do have some word cards. So rather than using the movable alphabet to spell the words, you're going to be using word cards to read the word and match it to the object.
We can have with alphabet bank, language trade that you have. We can take out whatever we have done, we can take out the
Or-
objects from there and we can put it in here
And
to
there's
make, those will match. I mean, we
from the
usually
object
put
box
off,
that we have, so yeah,
yeah.
that's word of the week, letter of the week.
Okay, that's cool. That would work. So those are object picture matching. And then you have picture word matching.
Yeah, we're starting from there.
And there are actually two sets
Yeah.
of picture word matching. There's kind of a simpler, and then there's like a lot of extra materials that you can use. So I like to start out with fewer, so it's not so overwhelming. They're all mixed in together. So
Oh,
not sorted
yes.
very well. I think in total there's like 20 something pictures in here, so I would not introduce all those together. These ones, so you basically have a set of words and then pictures that match. So that's object picture matching. And if you're looking at the chart, we're actually skipping the next thing on here. It says picture chart. We'll get to that in a little bit, and I'll explain why we skipped that. And then, so those are the things that are going to be kept in what we call our suitcase of pink materials. So you're going to have your object and your picture words. And then we'll have a small case over here that has the rest of the materials in it, or some of the other materials in it. So we have a word book, which is just a little booklet, and it has one word on each page. And again, these are the same types of words that they've been introduced to before. And this is where decoding skills come into play here. So they have no picture reference to be able to identify what word it could possibly be. They're completely relying on their decoding skills at this point. And the reason we separate these out one word per page is to help them isolate, focusing on one word. When you're reading a text, there's going to be lots of words involved, and that can be difficult for a child in the beginning, and so we just want to focus on one word at a time. So that's why you do a word book first, and then right after that you would introduce, there may be one or two, this one has two in it, word lists. So probably the same words that they encountered in their word books, some of the same words that they encountered in their picture to word matching. Again, we're just focusing on decoding without the representation of a picture, but now we have multiple words per page here to help them be able to focus on just identifying one word at a time.
And sometimes I find it useful that if it's a child who's not, that easily gets fumbled or anything, I'll take a piece of paper and have them do one letter at a time, sound it out, and then move it over to the next and then put it together.
Yes, you can definitely do that. So this is a good opportunity to see where children struggle in their reading, and if that's something, then teaching them skills to help make it easier as they move forward. Some coping mechanisms that they can use as they advance. And then we have picture distinguishing, which it gives you a picture of hopefully something they encountered in their picture to word matching. If again, you may have to identify what it is for the child. So again, this is a bag, and then they have to identify between these two words which one is the correct one. Because a lot of times, if they see an object here when they're reading, they'll automatically assume what a word is, which is it's a skill that they will learn and gain. But we also want to make sure that they're focusing on the word itself also. So typically these are going to be similar words, and their responsibility here is to identify which one is the correct one. Now there's a couple of different ways that we'll go over a little bit later how you can actually do that activity. I forgot I was just introducing what they are right now. And then again, if you're on the chart, picture word review is skipped because it's a review activity. And then introducing mystery words. So it's going to have just a small pack of little words here. And these words correspond with the readers that they're going to do when they eventually come to the end of this section. So we'll go over how to introduce those in a little bit too. And then some of them include sight words, some of them are the CDC, so it's a nice combination of all of the words that they would encounter in the book. Typically, all new words to the child will be included in a set of mystery words. The point of those is to make sure that a child is very proficient at reading all of the words that they might encounter within the book before they ever see the book. Of course, it's not in the same order, so it's out of context. And then we have what are called yes/no comprehension. And that's just what it sounds like. So they're going to read the question here, look at the pictures up top, and identify is that correct or not. And then we have sentence construction, which again we'll come back to the suitcase for. And just to show you what those are briefly, you're going to have pictures, and then there will be a set of words that will make up a sentence to describe the picture. And then the last section is the storybook. There's 3 things that go in the last part. It's a storybook, comprehension, page, and context questions. So you'll have a storybook that they read. Again, all of the words that they've been working up to this point they will have already encountered before they read this book. So it's why it's really important for them to be proficient in all of those other materials before they get in here, because you want them to find success in one of their first reading experiences so that they can become excited and want to continue to read.
So this book, all reds goes with the pink book, pink series.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yep. I don't know why the books are red and not pink.
Oh, yeah,
All the other books correspond
we
with the
have
color of the
the
materials.
pink
But yes, they all correspond with the pink series. So they'll read the book, and then we have a comprehension page. So you have this booklet of comprehension questions, and there's a page for each of the questions in the book. There's actually 2 pages, and they're just very simple questions. Which one characters map? Which characters tab? And then a couple questions from the story, just comprehension. Sequencing type questions, and then a question just to pull information, knowledge from the story. So a child can complete these pages independently. And we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about how you actually do that. And then we have what are called context questions. And for each story, there's a list of questions that you actually ask the child to see if they comprehended information from the story. So these types of things work on their reading fluency and comprehension and understanding as well. Okay, make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go over, you do all of that for short A, and then once they've accomplished all that, then you can go to the next line, which is going to be short I. So I'm going to go through real quickly what that looks like. So we'll start with the movable alphabet using objects if possible.
Mm-hmm.
We'll introduce any of the corresponding strips with the Insta Learning Board, or short I. You will have short I object to picture matching. You will have short I picture to word matching. Moving on here, labeled I. Here is a short I word book. Short I word lists. There is distinguishing, mystery words, yes, no comprehension, sentence construction, storybook, go storybook 2. Once they read the storybook, you'll get out that set of comprehension questions, and then you'll do your reading and context questions. And you just keep following that cycle over and over and over again.
And it is mentioned in there, right? Everything is mentioned.
Yeah, everything
It's
is
in
very clearly
sequence and
outlined.
order.
It's sequenced.
Okay.
Yeah. So you literally start right here, short I. You work through all of those materials we just talked about. Step 2, short A to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then move into short I, all of those different ones we talked about. And then you move into short O. And you go through that whole sequence of materials that we just talked about with short O. We cover short U and short E as well in this set. So these are all the short vowel sounds, CVC words that we're focusing on in here. Once you get past that, there's actually 6 storybooks in this set. There's 10 storybooks in this set, so there's 6 steps. The 6th step is a review. So if you look on the chart, you'll see some grayed out areas, and that just means that that particular material is not available for that step. So when you get down to the 6th step, you'll see all of these first areas are grayed out. It doesn't mean that you can't continue to work on those materials with the kids. There's just not a specific set of materials to correspond with the review. So what is included here that's not included in the previous ones is picture charts. And so that's what this material is. I have too many things here. So we have picture charts. And this is going to be a review because it's a mixture of all of the different vowel sounds. So if you read the pictures here, we have nut, can, dot, pan, ant, and hat. So those are working on different vowel sounds combinations. In the back, there's a little pocket, and it has the words in the back there. So they actually get to match each of the words. I'm focusing on different materials. So once you've introduced one of these to a child, then they can work with all. There's 5 different sets of them, and they can work with any one of those once they get to the review section. There is a review word book, and I just have it. There's a couple different ways that you could set this up. I think for you guys, we might have made this a stack of 6, and you have a review drawer. Is that right? You might have a review drawer.
No.
I don't
Or you
think
don't.
so.
I just keep it all in a basket. So, oh, I don't have it in here. So the review book that you would do, word book, is you can just take a few words from each of your other word books and make one that has a bunch of different words in it. There should be a word list that is review, which again, I don't know where mine is. Apologies, I thought I had all materials. Here they go. So there should be a review word list, so same concept there, just a word list, but it has a combination of all the different vowel sounds. Distinguishing, I do have an example of that here. And so if you look at the distinguishing words, it actually gives you options of both O and A. So on and so forth. And then there is a set of mystery words for each of the books. So this is the only thing that you would introduce one set of mystery words for each of the books that you're going to be introducing. So before you get into book 6, which is bedbug. Is it bedbug or bedbug?
Bedbug.
It is bedbug. I thought it was a misprint.
Bedbug.
Bedbug. Then you would introduce the 6th set of mystery words before introducing that particular. And then there is a whole set of review sentence construction as well. And again, these sentences will combine both all of the different short vowel sounds. You could also, it's not on here for the Insta Learning Board, but you could just do obviously a mixture of different sounds, just like with the Movable alphabet. All right, any questions about specific language schedule? Okay, cool.